So Hare Krishna, is everybody able to see the screen?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, Hari Bol. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. So today we're going to start L2, chapter 1. So this is going to be a 2 months course. Uh, Most probably we'll see as soon as we'll try to complete all the 18 chapters with a little more depth compared to L1. Okay. So this is chapter 1, observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjuna, Vishada Yoga. And one request to all the devotees, please keep your doubts to the end. Please keep them because again the class will get extended. So please don't ask your doubts in between. Please ask them because the flow will stop. Please ask, please keep them noted or put them in the chat or wherever, but please ask them after the session is over. Okay. That's the request, humble request to all the devotees. And before we start the class, please let us take our blessings from the beautiful deities of ISKCON Mangaluru, Sri Sri Radha Govindji. Sri Sri Radha Govindji ki jai. Okay, so the Bhagavad Gita that we are going to read is based on Srila Prabhupada's, on our very founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. He has written the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Actually, there were many Bhagavad Gitas, and the reason why Prabhupada had to write this Bhagavad Gita as it is because all the other Bhagavad Gitas were like they were additions or subtractions, and they were not accepting Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. And in some, there was no concept of Krishna, only philosophy excluding Krishna. So Prabhupada thought, what is Bhagavad Gita without Krishna? Bhagavad Gita itself means a song of Bhagwan, right? Bhagavad Gita means Bhagavad Gita. Gita means song. Bhagavad means Krishna, the song of Krishna. Where there's no concept of Krishna, what is the use of that Gita? So that's why Prabhupada, at that time, there were 800 different types of Bhagavad Gita, but still he had to write this Bhagavad Gita as it is. And now, if you see Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is the worldwide the most selling copy of Bhagavad Gita in the world. Okay, because it is very pure. There are no additions, no subtraction, that it has come from our Guru Parampara as it is. That's why it's mentioned Bhagavad Gita as it is. Okay, this is the Mangalacharan which we have done. And see, according to Prabhupada, Gita is a basic practical preaching book. So Gita is the basic. They say like ABC, right? That is Gita. Okay, but that Gita itself, Bhagavad Gita itself, we find it so difficult. Many of us find it difficult to read, understand. It takes us many, many years to understand the Gita, right? So one must study Bhagavad Gita inside out. That will help govern our external activities. So Bhagavad Gita is like a manual for us. See, like how if you buy a microwave or a fridge or a washing machine, you get a manual and you operate that particular machine reading the manual before, right? So, like that, for this human life, Bhagavad Gita is like a manual, and it like how this human body has to function is written in that manual, right? So reading the Bhagavad Gita, we have to live this life. It's a manual for us. Okay, one must understand the flow of philosophy and not in isolation. See, the Bhagavad Gita, it must be understood per how the acharyas are telling it, but not by our own individual assumption. But if we read it by our own, we won't be able to understand that philosophy. We should read it with the devotees, among the devotees, with the understanding. We should take the essence from the acharyas, what they are trying to tell in the association of devotees. Okay, and Lord Krishna's compassion, because he had compassion for all the living entities, that is why through Arjuna, he gave us the Bhagavad Gita. Because all of us, like how Arjuna was struggling in the war, like he was facing problems, all of us are facing problems in our material life. So Krishna, out of compassion for all the living entities, he gave the Bhagavad Gita. How we can come out of this material world? What is the solution for all these problems? through Arjuna, he gave us the Bhagavad Gita out of compassion. Okay, now please see, this is the Kuru family, right? So I'll try to explain. Please try to understand. See, this is the whole of Kuru dynasty. Okay, the first one is Shantanu. He is the main head of the Kuru dynasty. Shantanu married Ganga and they had a son named Bhishma. Okay, and Shantanu also married Satyavati and they had two sons, Vichitravirya and Chitrangada, right? In yellow boxes you can see, right? And Vichitravirya, okay, Chitrangada, elder one, okay? And he actually fought with one of the Gandharvas and he died. He didn't marry and he didn't have any sons, okay? So he fought with that Gandharva, and because of some reason, he had to fight with that Gandharva and he died with that Gandharva's hand. And then Vichitravirya, the younger one, Hare Krishna, please be on mute. Okay, so Vichitravirya, he had two wives, Ambika and Ambalika. Okay, and even Vichitravirya, he also, when he was fighting, he died. So they didn't have any children because now and Shantanu, he married, it's like, yeah. And Satyavati, now she was worried. See, now Chitrangada died, and Vichitravirya, they didn't have, he also died. No children. So she was worried, like, who will take forward this Kuru dynasty forward? So now Satyavati, through, like, once when she was traveling in a boat, she's actually, Satyavati is like a, what do you say, a fish selling a person's daughter. So she was traveling in the boat, and in the same boat, Parashara Muni was traveling. And Parashara Muni saw Satyavati, she was very beautiful, and through her, he gave birth to Vyasadev. I mean, it's not that physical relationship between Parashara Muni and Satyavati. It is through that yogic thing, they say, right? Yogic trance, like that. So Satyavati and Parashara, they have Vyasadev. And so now Satyavati remembers, oh, my son Vyasadev is there, right? So through Vyasadev, she requests Vyasadev, and she says, you try to beget children to Ambika and Ambalika. So now she sends Ambika to Vyasadev. But Ambika, she gets so scared seeing Vyasadev because he's a Muni, right? What can we expect from a Muni? Like all that jata, he'll be there. They look like in the forest, they'll be with long beards. They'll be scary to look at, right? So Ambika, when she saw Vyasadev, she got scared and she closed her eyes. So at that time, Vyasadev, he blessed her with a son who is blind, who has no eyes. Because Ambika, she closed her eyes, right? See, because she was so scared seeing Vyasadev. So that's why she gave birth to Dhritarashtra, who is blind. And then this Ambalika goes to Vyasadev, and she also gets scared seeing Vyasadev. She becomes pale. I mean, pale in the sense white she becomes. And then Pandu was born. Right? And Pandu, that's why he is very white. Okay. So, and now you see Dhritarashtra, he married Gandhari. And Gandhari had a brother, Shakuni. Right? Uh, and Dhritarashtra had how many sons? Not one sons, right? And 100 were 100 sons and one daughter. So the main big one, eldest one was Duryodhana, and they had one daughter called Dushala and Dushasana and 98 other sons. Okay, and here when you come to Pandu side, Pandu had two wives. One is Kunti, the first wife. Second wife is Madri. Okay, and they had Kunti had four. I mean three. Actually four, because before marriage she had a son, Karna, with sun god, right? As a blessing from sun god, she got Karna. And then with Pandu, Kunti got, see, Yudhishthir, Bhima, Arjuna, right? And through Madri, Pandu and Madri, they had Nakula and Sahadev. So totally Pandu had 5 sons. Okay, and these 5 sons, they married whom? Draupadi, right? And Arjuna also married Shubhadra, and Arjuna and Shubhadra had a son named Abhimanyu, and Abhimanyu married Uttara, and they had a son called Parikshit, and Parikshit's son's name is Janamejaya. All right, and Subhadra is the sister of Krishna and Balaram. Okay, and Vyasadeva had bore a son with a dasi, with a maid servant, and because of which we can see Vidura was born. Right? So this completes the Kuru dynasty. So this is the Kuru clan. Okay. Okay. So now the divisions of Bhagavad Gita. So as we saw in L1, the Bhagavad Gita has total of 18 chapters, and chapter 1 to 6 is Bhakti through Karma, that is Karma Yoga, and 7 to 12 is Bhakti itself, Bhakti Yoga, and 13 to 18 is Bhakti through Jnana, so that is Jnana Yoga. Okay, so here they are giving the reasons why Bhakti Yoga is in the middle of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. See, generally we give the conclusions at the end of the book, right? But why the main conclusion Bhakti Yoga is kept in the middle? Why? The first reason they are giving, Bhakti is rahasya, very secret. Okay, Bhakti is the essence of all scriptures. So that is why it is kept in the middle. Karma and Jnana Yoga are dead without Bhakti. Right? See, you do karma, you do Jnana, but without Bhakti, without Krishna, what is the use of that? Nothing, right? So hence they are surrounded by both. So Bhakti gives life to karma and Jnana Yoga. And third, generally, we do not disclose anything which is secret until we become intimate. So, hence, out of respect, bhakti is placed in the middle. And fourth, most important is kept in the middle. Example, suppose if a king is traveling with the army, he is always in the middle protected, right? Few of the army is in the front and few of the army is in the back. So like that, bhakti is being protected in the back by karma, and in the front by karma, and in the back by jnana. Okay, so that's why bhakti yoga is given in the middle, is kept in the middle. And if you see the Bhagavad Gita written by Srila Prabhupada, it is based on the commentaries of our previous acharyas, sampradaya acharyas, Srila Baladev Vidyabhushana, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura, and Srila Sridhara Swami, and Sripada Ramanujacharya. Okay, so based on all the commentaries of these four, our very Bhagavad Gita is written by Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so in the Bhagavad Gita, we have a total of 700 verses, out of which 574 shlokas are spoken. That means 82% of the shlokas are spoken by Lord Krishna. And Arjuna spoke 84 shlokas, Sanjaya spoke 41, and Dhritarashtra obviously one shloka, and the famous first shloka was spoken by Dhritarashtra. Right, so chapter 1 we are about to enter. So the divisions like section A 1.1 shloka to 1.21 is introduction, preparations for war. Okay, how the war took place. And then 28 to 46 doubts of Arjuna. Okay. Okay, and in 1 to 13 shlokas we see in preparation for war, Sanjaya informs King Dhritarashtra of Duryodhana's appraisal of the relative fighting strengths of the Pandava and Kuru armies. Bhishma and the Kuru army then loudly blow their conch shells, giving Duryodhana joy. Okay, so 14 to 19 we see on the other side the blowing of Krishna and Arjuna's transcendental conch shells, as well as the blowing of the conch shells of the other members of the Pandava army, shatters the heart of Duryodhana. Okay, and from 20 to 27 we see Arjuna requests Krishna to draw his chariot between the two armies to observe the Kurus. Arjuna sees many relatives and well-wishers on both sides. Okay, so let's see the go to verse 1. I think verse 1 is not given, the shloka is not given. I think I have to open it. Okay, Dhritarashtra Uvacha. You can memorize this shloka. Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kim Akurvata Sanjaya. So Dhritarashtra Uvacha. So Dhritarashtra is saying what to Sanjaya? Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre. So he's saying Kurukshetra is Dharma Kshetre, is a place, is a holy space, a holy place. Right? In that place, Samaveta are assembled. Samaveta means assembled. Yuyutsavaha. Yuyutsava means very enthusiastically ready to fight. Who are assembled in Kurukshetra? Mamakaha. Mamakaha means my sons. Mamakaha, my sons, and who else? Pandavas Chaiva. And the Pandavas, my sons and the Pandavas are assembled in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, enthusiastic to fight. Then Dhritarashtra is asking, Kim Akurvata Sanjaya? Kim means what happened next? Sanjaya. Dhritarashtra is asking. See, now it is like funny, right? See, when you go to a hotel, and 1 second, I'll just. So Dhritarashtra is asking what happened. Either for one side Kauravas, one side Pandavas, they have assembled in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, ready to fight enthusiastically. Now Dhritarashtra is asking Sanjaya, what happened next? It's like asking, it's like very funny question, right? You go to a hotel and you order some 10 items, and all the items are before you, and if somebody comes and asks you, what will you do now? Isn't it funny? Obviously you'll eat. When you go to a hotel, when you order, there's no necessity to ask, right? It's understood that you've come there to eat. And you have, when you have come to the battlefield to assemble on both sides to fight, what will you do? Obviously you'll fight. But why is Dhritarashtra asking this particular question? Right? Why is he asking Sanjaya? Why is he concerned? Why is he asking what did they do next? Why? See, Dhritarashtra's fears and concerns, if you see in the PPT, he was worried actually, right? He understood that the place where the war is happening, that Kurukshetra is Dharma Kshetre, means where religious rituals are performed. It's a holy place. And they're explaining, Dhritarashtra is he's fearful of that holy place, Kurukshetra, that battlefield. Why? Because Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, was present. And that Kurukshetra is a place of worship even for the heavenly people. Not only for normal people, but the denizens of heaven also come there. And third, what is the third thing that was fearing Dhritarashtra? That the Pandavas, they were fighting for dharma, right? Right? So that's why they were stronger. And the holy place would definitely have an influence on them because they are on the true path and they are following dharma. So they'll become even stronger because of the influence of that holy place. The holy place will favor them. Okay, that is one point. And then Bhishma and Drona are saintly. Okay, and he was worried. Maybe these two were, and even Duryodhana, because of the influence of that holy place, they may change their mind and they may decide not to fight, and they may come to a peace treaty, and they may try to take half of the kingdom, half of the kingdom for the Pandavas and half for the Kauravas. They will come. Will they come to a peace treaty? That's what. But Dhritarashtra didn't want that to happen. He wanted the whole kingdom for himself. So that's why he was fearful. That's why he's concerned. That's why he's asking what happened next. Okay. And here you saw that Dhritarashtra is separating. Actually, the Kauravas belong to one particular family, right? The Kauravas and they belong to one family. But here, Dhritarashtra is separating them. He's saying, Mamakaha, my sons, and Pandavas Chaiva. He's separating. He's saying, my sons and the Pandavas. Actually, all belong to the Kaurava family, Kuru family, right? But he's separating them now. He's separating his brother's family, the Pandu separate, and he's saying my family separate. So he's saying my children and the Pandavas. So here we can see that Dhritarashtra is ignorance and bodily a concept of like he's physically also he's blind and spiritually also he's blind. Okay. And one more thing here, we all may get that doubt. See, the battle is happening in Kurukshetra, and Dhritarashtra and Sanjay are sitting in Hastinapur. How is it that they are able to see the? They didn't go there. They are not in Kurukshetra. How is it that they are able to see the war? Anybody guesses like how they're able to see the war that is happening? What is happening in Kurukshetra?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please tell Prabhuji.
Mataji, they Dhritarashtra could see the war because Sanjay declared to Dhritarashtra what was happening in the battlefield because he could see the war because of the boon which he got from Vyasdev.
Hari Bol, perfect. Thank you, Prabhuji. Yes. Because Sanjaya is a disciple of Vyasa Maharshi, and Vyasa Maharshi gave him this divine vision so that he could see the war that was happening in Kurukshetra. And Sanjaya was seeing and he was explaining it to Dhritarashtra. Right? How do we see, right? We see television because of all the we are able to see everything which is happening in other states on the television. How are we able to see? Like that, Sanjay was able to see long back itself like that. Okay. And one more thing, like you see the in the PPT, right? Analogy: remove weeds, removing weeds from paddy field. Similarly, irreligious people will be wiped out in the battle. So Krishna, he wanted to remove all the unwanted people in this world at one go. See, if like suppose you are growing a tomato plant, and when you're growing a tomato plant, obviously there'll be many weeds around it. If you don't remove the weeds, all the energy will be absorbed by the weeds, and the main plant will die, right? So like that, Krishna, he wanted to remove the unwanted weeds like Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra, and everybody. He wanted, I mean, sorry, not the Duryodhana, all the sons of Dhritarashtra. He wanted to remove all of them in one go in the battle in one shot. Instead of going separately, one demon, he brought all of them, all the weeds together, all the irreligious people in one place, and he wanted to wipe all of them. Like how we remove the weeds which obstruct the main plant. So like that, he wanted to remove all the irreligious people, adharmic people, and establish Yudhishthir as the king. Okay, so this is the first shloka. Okay, second shloka. Let's see the verse. Sanjaya uvacha दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकं व्यूढं दुर्योधनस्तथा आचार्यम् उपसंगम्य राजा वचनम् अब्रवीत्. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sanjaya said, O king, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhana went to his teacher and spoke the following words. Okay, so second, like after seeing the arrangement of the Pandavas' army, now Duryodhana went to Dronacharya, right, who is the general, military general, and he spoke the following words. So Duryodhana, he approaches Dronacharya after accessing military formation of the Pandavas. Now Duryodhana, after seeing the arrangement, the military arrangement of the Pandavas, he got scared actually. How perfectly they were arranged, and they were, and he was like seeing all that arrangement and the strength of the Pandavas, military Pandavas. He was fearful. Like he didn't express it outside, but he had that fear inside. See, Duryodhana was a very a perfect diplomat and a very perfect politician. Okay, he never shows anything outside, but he had that fear inside. Oh my God, they have arranged the it so perfectly, and there's so much army. And in that fear, he, although he's a king, he went and approached Dronacharya. Right? Duryodhana is addressed as king by Sanjaya here. Why? To encourage despondent King Dhritarashtra. So, because Sanjaya knew that after the battle, Duryodhana will anyway not be the king. So, let me at least encourage him now by saying king, his son as king now. Right? So, Duryodhana is addressed as king by Sanjaya. Right? So, through Duryodhana, though Duryodhana is king, still he has to approach commander in chief for advice. Yeah, so fear. So why did he approach Dronacharya? Out of fear. He's trying to tell. He approaches because the king should be strong, right? But here, Duryodhana, when he saw that perfect military arrangement of the Pandavas, he was fear struck inside. So in that fear, he went and approached Dronacharya, who is the commander in chief. Okay, and he spoke the following words. Let's see what he speaks in 3. Pashyetam Panduputranam Acharya Mahatim Chamum Vyudam Drupada Putrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O my teacher, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupada. Okay, so now he went to Dronacharya, who is the commander in chief, and spoke what? So we can understand through this shloka that Duryodhana is a very expert politician and a diplomat. Okay, so he went to Dronacharya, and what did he say? That this whole military phalanx is arranged by whom? This is so perfectly arranged by, he didn't use the name Drishtadyumna. Actually, the opposing general was like how Dronacharya was the in charge of this army, and the opposite side on the Pandavas, the general was Drishtadyumna. But he didn't use the name Drishtadyumna. He uses the term son of Drupada. But wantedly, Duryodhana uses son of Drupada. Why? Because Drupada is the enemy of Dronacharya. So he wants to remind. See, by calling Drishtadyumna as son of Drupada, Drupada was his enemy. Like that, he's provoking Dronacharya. Right? He's reminding that, oh, he's the son of Drupada, your enemy. Right? So actually, see, there is a small pastime to this. In their childhood, when Dronacharya attended Gurukul, he and Drupada were very close friends. So that time they decided, like after they part ways, Drupada always said, see, once I become the king, I will give you half my kingdom. Don't worry. He said that when they were children in the Gurukul. And now, when they after they finished their Gurukul, they parted ways. And then later, when they grew up, Drupada became the king of his kingdom, and Dronacharya he became a Brahmana, right? He was so poor that they did not have food to eat, and even his son Ashwadama didn't even have milk to drink. And his mother, like mixed water, took some white powder and mixed water in it, and she said that that is milk, and she gave it to Ashwadama. And Ashwadama thought that was milk. But later, one day, when he was playing with his friends, one of his friends gave him milk to drink. Then Ashwadama said, "What is this? This is like, what is this? It is like something. What is this?" He asked. He said, "This is milk. This is not milk. I don't drink this every day." And then he says, your mother doesn't give you milk every day. You can't afford milk. That's why your mother, some white powder, she mixes water and she gives you. So now Ashwatthama goes home and asks his mother, Mother, like, is what you're not giving is not milk. It seems you're mixing some white powder with water and giving to me and saying that is milk. And then her mother, she says, she feels so bad that she's not even able to give milk to the children. So she goes to Dronacharya and says, "See, you said you had a friend Drupada who said he would give you half his kingdom. Why don't you ask him something? Why don't you ask him to help you?" So then, yeah, he remembers, and so he goes to Drupada. So Drupada, now he's a powerful king, right, in a high position. When he goes to Drupada, Drupada says, "Who are you? After all, you're a poor Brahmana. Don't say I'm your friend. And you want half my kingdom? No way. Where is your level and where is my level? How can you even say you're my friend? If you want, I can give you something. I mean, but don't say I'm your friend." Right? And he insults him, and he sends him away. Now Dronacharya feels hurt and insulted. Now he also wanted to take revenge, obviously, right? So he was going, and on the way, he sees the Pandavas. They were playing, and their ball falls in the well. Okay, and Dronacharya, he was a very skilled person actually. In all the, he had all the training and everything. He was a perfect teacher. So what he did, he tried to bring the ball out of the well by using what do you say, grass. So one by one, grass. What do you say? He piled up all the grass, and he stuck it to the ball, and it became a rope, and he pulled the ball out. So the Pandavas, they saw this, the way Dronacharya he pulled out the ball with that grass. They were astonished. So they went inside and told Bhishma, their grandfather, "See, grandfather, how this person he took the ball like this with the grass." Then Bhishmacharya understood this great person must be Dronacharya, and he is fit to be a teacher to the Pandavas. And then he invites Dronacharya, and requests them to he requests Dronacharya to be their teacher, the teacher of the Pandavas. Then his fate turns. Okay, now he has become the teacher of the Pandavas. Now he trains the Pandavas so well that they become experts in all arts, like Arjuna in what do you say, archery, and Bhima in mace, Gada. Right? Each of them in some special this thing, they are trained special weapons. Now he tells them, "Now go and fight with Drupada and bring him as a prisoner." So now all of them go and fight, and they defeat Drupada, and they bring Drupada here. Okay, and Drupada is so attracted to Arjuna, seeing the valor and the heroism of Arjuna. He is very attracted, right? Uh, so when Arjuna brings Drupada to Dronacharya, Dronacharya says, "See, finally you are now in front of me. Now I have your whole kingdom. But I am not like you. I will give you half the kingdom. You take half the kingdom. I will take half." And then he gives half the kingdom to Drupada and he leaves. Now Drupada feels insulted now. Right? So now Drupada, he does a great tapasya. And that tapasya, he wanted, why he does that tapasya? He wanted a son and a daughter. A son named Drishtadyumna who could kill Dronacharya, and a daughter, Draupadi, who could marry Arjuna, because he was so fascinated by Arjuna's power and everything, heroism and all that fighting, right? So that's why he wanted a son and a daughter. And from that tapasya, he gets a son named Drishtadyumna and a daughter named Draupadi, right? So he marries, that's why he marries Arjuna and all the Pandavas, that's we know. And then Drishtadyumna, the one who we see now, right? He is the one who arranged the military arrangement. And one thing we should note here, though Dronacharya knew that Drishtadyumna would be the cause, he would be the reason to kill him, because he was born to kill him, like from the tapasya, right? That's what Drupada wanted. He wanted Drishtadyumna to kill Dronacharya. That is why he did tapasya, to get a son like that, right? Even then, Dronacharya didn't hesitate to give him the full education. He gave him the full training, everything, military training, everything he gave. Okay, so we should understand that a guru is never partial, right? A guru is always a guru. Like, even though he knows that he's going to kill him in war, but still he taught him all the military tricks and tactics and how to use this weapon, that weapon, everything he told him. Okay, so that's why now Duryodhana is saying, see, don't, he's your disciple. Don't feel compassion because he's your disciple. That's why he uses this son of Drupada, so that he remembers the enmity, Drupada. Like, Drupada is his enemy. So remember, he's your enemy's son. So don't show compassion because he's your disciple. Okay, you fight. Already you've done one mistake. You've trained him so nicely. Now you see, because you've trained him so nicely, he so expertly arranged that military army. Now don't do one more mistake by being compassionate and not killing him or not fighting. He's trying to say to Dronacharya. And similarly, what else is he saying? Similarly, the Pandavas are also trained by Dronacharya, right? He's the guru of the Pandavas also, right? So he should not be lenient in fighting. And Dronacharya especially likes the Pandavas so much. And in the Pandavas also, he likes Arjuna very much. So that's why Duryodhana is telling, you should not be lenient in fighting towards your disciples, who are Pandavas. You should not be lenient. You should fight properly, right? Okay, so this we saw, and now see, they are showing the strength of the armies of both Pandavas and Kauravas. Okay, see, one Akshohini means what? All right, one Akshohini means, when we say, it consists of 21,870 chariots and 21,870 elephants, all right, and 65,610 horses and 1,09,350 soldiers on foot. Okay, so when they say one Akshohini, so many are there. So many chariots, so many elephants, so many horses, so many soldiers. So, and on the Pandava side, the army was 7 Akshohini. And on the Kaurava side, there was 11 Akshohini. So you can multiply one Akshohini above, right, into 7 times. That is Pandava's army. Into 11, that is Kaurava's army. Okay? So that much was the army. So you can imagine Pandavas just had 7 Akshohini and Kauravas had 11 Akshohini. In fact, you know why Duryodhana was shocked seeing that how could the Pandavas, all these years they were in the forest, how did they manage to get 7 Akshohini Sena? And Duryodhana, once he sent the Pandavas in the forest, in the exile for 13 years, you know, he was not just sitting calm. He was not enjoying the kingdom happily. You know what? He was busy gathering, because he knew that after 13 years, the Pandavas will come back and ask the kingdom. Then only he decided that I will ask them to fight. So for that fight, he was getting prepared. So he was going to each and every kingdom and he was trying to make them their friend and he was gathering everybody. So like that, he gathered 11 Akshohini. He went to all the different parts of the kingdoms and all the kings and his enemies, everybody, he got them together. And like that, he was not free. He was not enjoying. He was gathering and gathering. He was going everywhere, and he gathered 11 Akshohini with so much effort all those years. But he was wondering how come 13 years the Pandavas were in the forest. They didn't do any gathering, nothing. But how did they get 7 Akshohini? He was surprised actually seeing that. And that 7 Akshohini also was so perfectly arranged by Drishtadyumna. So that is what shocked Duryodhana. Right? He was wondering. So a 7 Akshohini means just 4 Akshohini less, right? With no effort. So he was there. He was actually surprised. 13 years, I was struggling. I went to this king, and I made 11 Akshohini. And they were in the forest for 13 years. And within a short span, how did they manage 7 Akshohini? He was wondering. Okay. So, and who is the commander in chief of the Pandavas? We saw, right? Drishtadyumna, the son of Drupada. And on the Kaurava side, it is Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Shalya, and Duryodhana. And the Maharathis. Who are the Maharathis on the Pandavas? Maharathis are people who can fight 60,000 warriors at a time. Okay, so Arjuna was such Maharathi, okay? And on Kaurava's side, Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Ashwatthama are the Maharathis. And who are the Atirathis? Atirathis means who can fight 10,000 warriors at one time. Right? Yudhishthira, Bhima, Drishtadyumna, Ghatotkacha, Satyaki, Yuyutsu. And on the Kaurava side, Shalya, Somadatta, Purishrava, Bhagadatta, Jayadratha, Kritavarma, all these people, right, were there. So we can imagine, you have a picture, right, like what is what of Pandavas and Kauravas, the strength of the army, and who are the commander-in-chiefs, who are the Maharathis and the Atirathis, okay? And these are further divisions like Pati, Senamugam, they use those different terms, right? Akshohini, what is Akshohini, Anihini, Samu, Sena, all those further classification of soldiers, horses, elephants, like that. See, if we say Pati means one chariot, one elephant, and 3 horses with soldiers and 5 soldiers, like that. And the head of that Pati is called Patipal. So like that, all the remaining are, you can please refer once we give the PPT, okay? Now, 4th shloka, we'll see. अत्र शूरा महेश्वासा भीमार्जुना समायुधि युयोधना विराटश्च द्रुपदश्च महारथः. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Here in this army are many heroic men, heroic bowmen, equal in fighting to Bhima and Arjuna. Great fighters like Yuyudhana, Virata, and Drupada. So now Duryodhana is comparing, he's showing on the opposite side who are the great warriors. Okay, he's trying to explain like who are the most powerful on the other side, on the Pandava side. So he's saying many heroic men equal in fighting to Bhima and Arjuna. So Duryodhana, he knows the strength, fighting strength of Bhima and Arjuna. Why? Because he many times fought with Bhima and he lost. So he's very scared of Bhima. Right from childhood, even from when he was a child, he always used to lose with Bhima. So he knows the personally, because Kauravas and Pandavas, they stayed together and learned, right, all the whatever weapons or everything. So he knows the strength of Bhima very well because he's many times lost with Bhima. And Arjuna, obviously, he saw like what a great archer he was. We know that story, right? Where all the disciples, Dronacharya assembles, and you had to shoot the arrow to the eye of the bird. So he asks each person he asks, what do you see? So everybody's all say that I see the tree, I see the bird, I see the branch, I see the sky. So nobody says I see the eye of the bird. So Dronacharya says, no, no, you don't hit, you don't. And finally he comes to Arjuna. He asks, Dronacharya asks Arjuna, what do you see? Arjuna says, I only see the eye of the bird. Then Dronacharya says, shoot. Then Arjuna shoots and it exactly hits the eye of the bird. So he knows Arjuna's greatness in fighting. All right. And one more thing, he saw his greatness during the Draupadi, that thing, right? When, what do you say, that Swayamvara. He saw his archery. How? By seeing the shadow of the fish, which is rotating on the top in the reflection of the water, and he shoots the eye of the fish. Right? So he knows how heroic these people, Bhima and Arjuna, are. He knows the power of Bhima and Arjuna. So that he's comparing, he's saying not only just Bhima and Arjuna, like Bhima and Arjuna, there are many people he's saying, like who? Yuyudhana, Virata, Drupada, he's saying. Okay, we'll see. See here for Bhima and Arjuna, who all are equal? Yuyudhana, Virata, Drupada are there. Equal in strength to Bhima and Arjuna. Okay. And next, let's go to 5th shloka. दृष्टकेतुश्चेकितानः काशीराजश्च वीर्यवान् पुरुजित् कुन्तिभोजश्च शैब्यश्च नरपुङ्गवः. Translation: there are also great heroic powerful fighters like Drishtaketu, Chekitana, Kashiraja, Purujit, Kuntibhoja and Shaibya. So he's saying not only they are even powerful heroic fighters like these people: Drishtaketu, Chekitana, Kashiraja, Purujit, Kuntibhoja and Shaibya. So he's telling some more fighters' names who are very ferocious and who are very powerful on the side of Pandavas. Now in the 6th shloka, he says, Yudhamanyuscha Vikranta Uttamaujascha Viryavan Saubhadro Draupadeyascha Sarva Eva Maharataha. Now he's telling about the Maharathis. Who are the Maharathis? It seems on the Pandava side, the mighty Yudhamanyu, the very powerful Uttamauja, the son of Subhadra, and the sons of Draupadi. So all these warriors are great chariot fighters, means Maharathis. Okay. See, they're saying Yudhamanyu, Uttamauja, sons of Subhadra, sons of Draupadi, they are Maharathas. Right? So if you see, so this 4 to 6, the Duryodhana is describing the warriors on the opposing army. That is the Pandava side. He is describing the strength, the power in 4 to 6 shlokas. See, basically all these people on the Pandava side, all of them are fighting for rights, and they are not fighting for material gains. See, when Krishna goes for a peace treaty, he says, "Let's take half." And Duryodhana says, "No, no, no, nothing doing. Fight is compulsory." Then at least Krishna says, "Give at least one village to one Pandava, like 5 villages for 5 Pandavas." He says, "No, no, I won't even give a space that fits a needle also." So that is the reason. See, Kshatriyas, they can't live by begging, right? Like Brahmanas. So they have to rule, right? Kshatriya, the duty of a Kshatriya is to rule. They can't live like Brahmanas begging from house to house. That is not their swabhava, right? So that's why Krishna at least asked, one village you give, 5 villages for 5 Pandavas. But still, Duryodhana said, no, I won't even give a needle space of this thing to the Pandavas. You fight and you take. So that is the reason they had to do this yuddha, that fight. So these Pandavas, they're all fighting for rights. They're not fighting for material gains, right? That's why they are doing a dharmic war. That's why for them it is very strong, right? The support is very strong for them. Okay. So now in 7 to 9, see 4 to 6, it describes the Pandavas army, the strength. Now in 7 to 9, Duryodhana describes his own army now. His strength he describes now, Duryodhana. Okay. So now let's see Sloka 7. See now, Asmakam, he's saying my, right? Asmakam tu Vishishtaye tan Nibodha Dvijottama Nayaka mama Sainyasya Samgnartam tan bravimite. Translation. But for your information, O best of the Brahmanas. See, now he is trying to praise Dronacharya. That's why he's calling him the best of the Brahmanas. Okay. So he wants to, he's praising so that he can entice Dronacharya. He's encouraging Dronacharya so that he can fight well. That's why he's calling him best of the Brahmanas. So let me tell you about the captains who are especially qualified to lead my military force. Okay, now he says, who are they? Translation, Bhavan Bhishmascha Karnascha Kripascha Samatitam Samitin
Samitin,
Jayah. Sorry, Prabhuji?
Samitin Jaya.
Yeah, Samitim Jayah. Ashwathama Vikarnascha Saumadattis Tataiva Cha. Okay, so translation. He's saying, Duryodhana is saying, they are personalities like you, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwathama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadatta called Bhurishrava, who are always victorious in battle. Okay. Okay. So now in this shloka, actually, Duryodhana was in a dilemma. Like we said, right? He's a perfect diplomat. He's a politician. Now he was first in a dilemma whether I should tell when he's describing his strength of the army, whether I should tell Bhishma first or Dronacharya first. Right? He was in a dilemma. Right? So that's why then he finally decides. Bhavan, he says in the shloka first, right? So he first says Dronacharya. He says first Dronacharya's name and then he says Bhishma. So he was under the assumption, he assumed that, okay, Bhishma Pitamaha won't, he's a Kshatriya, right? But Dronacharya is a Brahmana. So Bhishma will be okay. Nothing, not a problem because he's a Brahmana, right? Even if I tell Brahmana's name, he'll be okay. So that's why Bhavan is named before Bhishma. So Drona, being a Brahmana, is okay with Bhishma. That's why it's okay, no problem. Bhishma won't have a problem. So that's why he first tells Dronacharya's name and then Bhishma and then the remaining. He says Dronacharya, Bhishma, Karna, Kripacharya, all those names, right? Karna, you all know. Kripacharya is the guru of the Kauravas and Pandavas, we know. And Ashwadhama, who is Ashwadhama? Anybody?
Mataji,
Yeah, yes, Prabhuji.
Mataji, Ashwathama was the son of Dronacharya, who
Yeah,
was
perfect.
who was the teacher of
Yes,
Kauravas and Pandavas.
yes, perfect, perfect. Thank you, Prabhuji. Okay, yeah. So let's see eighth sloka. Eighth sloka is over, right? 1 second. Yeah. Okay. And who is Vikarna? Anybody?
Uh, Mataji,
Yes, Prabhuji?
Mataji, Vikarna was related to the Pandavas actually, but uh, while he was visiting the Pandavas, Duryodhan made him come over to their Kaurav's tent.
No, no,
Uh,
no. That is Shalya. That is Shalya. Vikarna is the brother of Duryodhana. Duryodhana, and there were 99 brothers, right? He is one of the brothers, Vikarna. Okay, actually, when Draupadi Vastrapaharana was happening, why does he specially mention Vikarna's name? Is actually Vikarna is not a special, very powerful warrior. But why did he mention Vikarna's name along with Bhishma, Karna, Kripachari, great fighters? Is see Vikarna he supported during the Draupadi Vastrapaharan. Nobody, even Bhishma, Dronacharya, nobody opposes that Vastrapaharan of Draupadi. But Vikarna, he opposes. He says, "What you're doing, Duryodhana, what you're doing is wrong." He opposes. He's the only one who opposes, who stands and opposes what you're doing is wrong. So here, that's why Duryodhana was scared. Vikarna may go and support the Pandavas. Okay, that's why he's praising him here. Though he is not a great warrior, just because he's bringing his name so that he will stay in the side of the Kauravas. Because see, the battle is not yet started. Now there is always a chance that they can go from this side to the other side. Anytime they can shift. So that's why Duryodhana is being a perfect diplomat. That's why he's including Vikarna's name among the great warriors, and he's praising Vikarna so that he will stay on the side of Kauravas and not move on to the side of Pandavas. Okay, and Saumadatta and Jayadratha. Who is Jayadratha? Anybody? You must have heard Jayadratha, right? He's very famous. No idea? So Jayadratha is the son-in-law of Dhritarashtra, right? Jayadratha, he married Dushala. See, we said, right, there are hundreds sons of Dhritarashtra and one daughter, she is Dushala, and Dushala married Jayadratha. Okay, so he is Jayadratha, and Jayadratha, the famous story, you know, right? How he invites Abhimanyu into that Chakravyuha, and they trap, and all the Kauravas they gather around Abhimanyu, who was just 16 years, I believe, at that time, and all of them crowd and they kill Abhimanyu mercilessly. So that's why Arjuna, when he came to know that his son Abhimanyu was killed like this, because of Jayadratha, he says that next day by evening, if I don't kill Jayadratha, I will kill myself. So that's how we know the story, right? When next day Jayadratha was being overprotected, he does not come out, he stays only in the somewhere they hid him, right? And by sunset, Arjuna said, right, if I don't kill him, I will kill myself. So Krishna, what he does, you know, he pre-plans, he make what is not possible for Krishna, right? So he brings the sunset. He can just do anything, right? He can bring the sunset earlier. So he brought the sunset earlier, and then Jayadratha was happy. Yay! Now sunset is over. Now Arjuna will die, and he happily came out and he's jumping. Now, immediately, what Krishna does again, he brings the sun out. Now, so he tells Arjuna, now go and kill him fast. And Arjuna, he kills him immediately. He dies. Okay, it's like that. So he's Jayadratha. Okay. And
Mata,
yes, Prabhuji.
Mataji,
Yeah.
Mataji, who was the sage who was doing the yagna? Uh, because Jayadratha had a boon that if his son, if his head was cut and would fall onto the floor, then there would then whoever was near his head would die. So Arjun, uh, when he uh, when he beheaded Jayadratha, then
Uh,
he then he then he then he with his arrow uh, he took the head of Jayadratha into a sage's yagya.
I'm not sure, Prabhuji.
And
I heard that, correct. I think the head went and flew somewhere, they say. I'm not sure about that exactly, Prabhuji.
and
Yeah.
Mataji,
That is right. Yeah, but I'm not exactly sure, Prabhuji. Yeah, what it should not fall on the ground, but it should fall. It went and fell. He threw it, cut the head, and it went and fell somewhere. Right, what he said is right, but I'm not sure of that exact story, Prabhuji. Yeah, I'll try to find that out and I will let you know because I have no idea. But I was just trying to tell you here that who is Jayadratha, right? That concept to show that he was one among the great warriors on the side of Duryodhana. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. And Kritavarma and Shalya. This Shalya actually was what we all know that Pandu had a second wife called Madri, right? Madri's brother was Shalya. Okay, so
M-
Shalya,
Ma
sorry, yeah, Prabhuji.
Madhvi's brother,
Madri.
Madhuri.
Yeah, Pandu had two wives. The first wife was Kunti, and the second wife was Madri. So Madri's brother is Shalya. Okay, so they were related. So actually, Shalya, when the Kurukshetra war was starting, he came with all his army. He started, and on his way. Generally, obviously, that time there were no buses or all this. They had to come by walk or on chariots, on like that, right? On palanquins. So they used to rest, and then they used to slowly come again like that. So at a certain place, they were provided nice tents and entertainment, nice food and everything. So what Shalya thought, oh, maybe Yudhishthir arranged all this because he knew that we were coming, and he was so happy that he asked the one of the ministers there, please, I will give anything, whatever you want, I will give. So what the ministers, what do they say cleverly? See, now you have taken all the shelter, everything you enjoyed, you have taken, you fight for Duryodhana. He was surprised. What is this? Why should I fight for Duryodhana? Because they say that all this is arranged by Duryodhana. Now you have made a promise that you will fight for whoever has given me all this. So he had no option because he had given a promise that whoever has done all this, he will help them. So he had to no choice. Actually, he started with the intention to support the Pandavas, but when he took shelter here, then he had to, obviously, because he made a promise, he had to support the Kauravas. So he had to fight on the side of Kauravas. Okay, and here, see, these people, Dronacharya and Duryodhana and all these people, they were fighting for material cause, not like the Pandavas. Pandavas, they were fighting for their rights. They were not fighting for material gains. But these people, they were greedy for the kingdom. See, actually, if they were not greedy, they would have taken half of, because the Kuru army is of Pandavas and Kauravas, right? So they could have at least taken half of, right? But these people, they were so greedy that they wanted the whole kingdom. So they were fighting for a material cause. Hence they were weak. They were fighting for a material cause, not for a dharmic cause, right? Okay, so and hence they are weak. And actually, if you see in them also, most of them are favoring Pandavas only. But because of some option like Shalya, if you see, Kripacharya, Bhishma, all these people, they were actually supporting Pandavas only, if you see. But they had no option because they were being fed by Duryodhana. That is, for that reason, they had to fight on the side of Duryodhana. Okay. So all these people, they were, I mean, in the ninth shloka, we'll see, right? That what the thing is. I'll read the ninth shloka, then you'll understand better. Anye cha bahavaha shura mad arte tyakta jivitaha nana shastra praharanaha sarve yuddha visharadaha. Okay, translation. There are many other heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. All of them are well equipped with different kinds of weapons and all are experienced in military science. So now here, Okay. See, the 9th shloka is mentioned here. If you see, he's what is Duryodhana saying? All these people that he mentioned, the great warriors on Duryodhana's side, they are ready to lay their lives. Okay. So he's saying that all of them are ready to give up. They are ready to die for me. Okay, he's saying, but he's thinking that they're so loyal, so nice they are, they're even ready to die for me. But the fate of their lives is already decided. Why? They are already, their fate is destined. They will die because they are on the side of injustice. They are on the side of adharma. They are against Krishna. So their fate is already decided. They are going to die. So that's why Duryodhana is indirectly, though he is thinking that they are loyal and they are going to die for me, but really their fate is decided because they are supporting injustice. They are going to die. Okay. Now 10th shloka. अपर्याप्तं तद् अस्माकं बलं भीष्माभिरक्षितं पर्याप्तं तु इदम् एतेषां बलं भीमाभिरक्षितम्. Translation: Our strength is immeasurable and we are perfectly protected by grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas, carefully protected by Bhima, is limited. Okay, so now here, Duryodhana is describing strength of his army. Now he's comparing both sides. Okay, whose strength is more, kind of. Okay, so he's saying aparyaptam means what? Immeasurable or insufficient, and protected by Bhishma. He's saying on our side we have Bhishma, who is like very powerful warrior, and he has Icha Mrityu. He cannot die. Nobody can kill him, and he's a powerful warrior. Okay, and then he says we have Bhishma on our side. And who was there on the Pandava side? Pandava side is protected by Bhima. Bhima is nothing compared to Bhishma, very small compared to Bhishma. Actually, Duryodhana is very envious of Bhima because always, right from childhood, he used to lose with Bhima. So he knows that finally, if he does that encounter with Bhima, he knows that surely he will die in the hands of Bhima. So he is jealous. That's why he's trying to compare with Bhishma and saying, if we have Bhishma and Pandavas have Bhima, nothing incomparable. He's very insignificant. Okay. So that's why he's comparing with Bhima with Bhishma. Okay. So he's nowhere compared to Bhishma, and uh, yeah, only like Duryodhana is always envious of Bhima because he always lost in a battle. But whatever Gada they fight, right? These two, Duryodhana. So whenever they did Gada Yuddha, he always used to lose in the hands of Bhima. Right from childhood, he used to lose. Okay, that's why he's envious of Bhima, right? And he's trying to degrade Bhima when by comparing with Bhishma, saying that Bhishma is so powerful, and what about Bhima? He's nothing compared to Bhishma. Okay, so he's comparing here. Now, in Shloka 11 to 12, Duryodhana requesting his army to support Bhishma. See, now we'll see another angle, another political or diplomatic angle of Duryodhana. Okay, see, let's first read the shloka and then we'll try to understand. 11. अयनेषु च सर्वेषु यथा भागम् अवस्थिताः भीष्मम् एवाभिरक्षन्तु भवन्तः सर्व एव हि. Translation: All of you must now give support to grandfather Bhishma as you stand at your respective strategic points of entrance into the phalanx of the army. Okay, see now. Okay. See now Duryodhana, as earlier we said, right, he's a diplomat now. So he thinks, now he's thinking about the remaining of his warriors. See, he's praising only few people, right? Now he's like, he's thinking, oh, the other warriors may think, what are we for? We are nothing or what? They may feel like that, right? So now he's coming, turning to them. He thinks that the others in the army may feel bad. So hence, now what he is doing, he requests all of those warriors to support or protect Bhishma. Why? Bhishma is now old and he needs support and protection, right? Though he is a powerful warrior, he may sometimes get confused, because if people from all directions come and attack him, he may get confused, right? So that's why Bhishma needs protection by all of you. So all of you, you must give protection to Bhishma. All of you must stand and surround Bhishma so that nobody attacks Bhishma. You must give protection to Bhishma. So he's trying to give them importance now. Okay, so Duryodhana is confident of the support from Bhishma and Dronacharya, as they supported during the gambling match. And now Duryodhana is confident that Bhishma and Dronacharya will fight for him. Why is he confident? Can anybody tell? See, earlier we said, right, Bhishma and Dronacharya liked the Pandavas very much. They're very compassionate to them, and maybe they may not fight. But now Duryodhana is confident that Bhishma and Dronacharya will fight. Why?
Mataji,
Yeah, Prabhuji.
Mataji, because uh, when the when Kauravas and Pandavas uh, were gambling in the hall of Dhritarashtra. So when Pandavas lost and Duryodhan and the other Kauravas were disturbing Draupadi, then uh, during that accident, then during that when that was taking place, then Bhim and Dronacharya didn't say anything to Duryodhan.
Exactly. Perfect. Thank you, Prabhuji. Exactly. See, that time when Draupadi was being disturbed, they didn't say anything. Only Vikarna was the one who said, what you're doing, brother, is wrong. And he was the only one who wanted to stop this. But remaining, even including Dronacharya, Bhishma, everybody, they supported Duryodhana. So that gave him confidence that even during the war, Bhishma and Dronacharya will support him. Okay, so that is 11th shloka. 12th, let's see.
Mataji,
Yes, Prabhuji.
Mataji, I have a question here.
Hmm.
The during this, uh, Karna also opposed uh, Duryodhan, and Arjun, when Lord Krishna showed his universal form to Arjun, then later Karan also uh, saw Lord Krishna's universal form. Then Mataji,
Where,
why did
no, where Karna saw the universal form? What was the situation?
Mataji, when Lord Krishna was showing his universal form to Arjun, then Karna also asked some questions to Lord Krishna. Na? Then
No,
after
no. He didn't see the universal form during the Kurukshetra war.
Mataji, but he opposed Duryodhan when Duryodhan was disrobing Draupadi. Na? Uh, so
Where is that?
by
Kurukshetra is different, and that is before peace treaty. You are getting
yes.
confused, Prabhuji. No, that is before. You are telling in the Kurukshetra war. But the Vishwarupa, that was not complete Vishwarupa. That was shown only to Duryodhana. Duryodhana and to Dhritarashtra, not to Karna. When Krishna came as a peace treaty, that time he wanted to show that Krishna is not an ordinary person. He shows the semi-universal form, not it's the partial universal form. He shows to Duryodhana, not the full universal form that was shown to Arjuna during that Kurukshetra war. And Karna never saw it. Only it was Duryodhana during the peace treaty, that is before the war, when Krishna comes as a peace treaty, that time he wanted to show his power as, I mean, like he's not an ordinary person. That time he shows the semi, not the full. The only universal form that Arjuna, because Arjuna asked, he showed the whole universal form at that time, and that was the first time, first complete universal form. Okay, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. That which he showed, he never showed to Karna. I mean, as far as I know and read in the Bhagavad Gita, it is never mentioned about Karna. Okay, that is for sure. I mean, till what I've read in Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita is that is what is mentioned, Prabhuji. Okay. Right. Tasya Sanjanayan Harsham.
Tasya Sanjayan Harsham.
Kuru Vridhamahah Simhanadam Vinadyochaihi Shankam Dadmau Prataptavan. Okay, so translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Then Bhishma, the great valiant grandsire of the Kuru dynasty, the grandfather of the fighters, blew his conch shell very loudly, making a sound like the roar of a lion, giving Duryodhana joy. Okay. Okay, so now 12th. Now Bhishma, out of compassion to cheer Duryodhana, he blew the conch shell very loudly. Okay, he knew Bhishma is the grandfather of the Kuru dynasty, obviously of Kauravas and Pandavas, and he knew them since they were children, right? So he knew the mentality of Duryodhana. He could make out that Duryodhana inside he was fearful when seeing the Pandavas' army, right? So he wanted to give him that happiness. Okay, yeah, now I'm ready to fight. I'm going to fight for you, Duryodhana. And he wanted to give that happiness to Duryodhana. Okay, that's why he blew the conch shell out of compassion to cheer Duryodhana. He blew the conch shell loudly. And then when Bhishma he blew the conch shell, Duryodhana was felt very happy. Okay, so Duryodhana defeat is certain. He knew that obviously after the war, Duryodhana would be defeated. He would be killed because the other side they have on the Pandava side they have Krishna. But here Bhishma already knew, though he was giving happiness by blowing the conch shell, he was just fighting as a matter of duty. He also knew that I am fighting against Adharma. All of us will be killed. But as a duty, since I have to fight, I will just fight as a matter of duty. Okay, so Bhishma Dev, he just fights for the sake of fighting. But when he was blowing the conch shell, he knows that we are all going to be finished. We are going to be killed because on the other side is Krishna. Obviously, there'll be victory on the other side. Okay, but just to give happiness to Duryodhana, he gives him, to give him that confidence, he blows that conch shell. Okay. So this is shloka 12. Now let's go to 13. Okay. Okay. Tataha Shankascha Bhairyascha Panavanaka Gomukaha Sahasaivaphyananta Sa Shabdastumulo Abhavad. Translation. So after that, the conch shells, drums, bugles, trumpets, and horns were all suddenly sounded, and the combined sound was tumultuous. See, generally, you must have seen in the Mahabharata serials and all that, when the war is about to start, they blow all these conch shells, drums, bugles, trumpets, and horns, indicating that the war can be started. Okay, so this they blow all these conch shells, drums, bugles, trumpets, and horns. So all were suddenly sounded, and the combined sound was tumultuous. So both the they were blowing all these drums and things, indicating that the war is going to start. Okay, so 14. Tataha shveter yukte mahati syandane stitau madavaha pandavaschaiva divyau shankau pradadmatuhu. So translation, on the other side, both Lord Krishna and Arjuna, stationed on a chariot drawn by white horses, sounded their transcendental conch shells. Okay. Okay, 14th. And so Krishna and Arjuna, no, wait, yeah. So 14 we saw, right? Tremendous sound of conch shells, drums, bugles, trumpets, and horns. Right now, Krishna and Arjuna blowing. 1 second. Okay, so this is 14. Tatah shveter yukte mahati syandane stitau madavaha pandavaschaiva divyau shankau pradatmatuhu. So translation, on the other side, see, after these people, the Kauravas blew their conch shells. Now they are talking about the Pandavas side. Okay, now what is happening on the other side? So on the other side, both Lord Krishna and Arjuna stationed on a great chariot drawn by white horses sounded their transcendental conch shells. Okay, they blew, their shells are described as transcendental. So Lord Krishna and Arjuna's conch shells were transcendental, they were not normal. Okay, see here, you can see, right? So Krishna and Arjuna's conch shell is described as transcendental. And Madhava, why is Krishna called Madhava? Hare Krishna, sorry Mataji.
Why Krishna is Madhava?
Not able, sorry Mataji, totally disturbing. Not sorry Mataji, no, we're not able to hear you. Your voice is breaking up and we're not able to hear you. Oh, sorry Mataji. Okay, so why is Krishna called Madhava? Means Krishna is the husband of goddess of fortune. Okay, so means Krishna is what? He is the symbol of victory, and the goddess of fortune is always with the husband. Krishna separate, right? Both are together. Means victory and fortune together, right? So what does it mean? It indicates victory. If victory and fortune both are there, it is for sure that the Pandavas or Arjuna, they will win the battle. It's a symbol of victory for them. And the chariot on which Krishna,
Arjun.
sorry?
Mataji, Arjun's chariot.
Yeah, Arjun's chariot is given by Agni Dev, right? And it is such a powerful chariot that it is capable of conquering all the three worlds. It is such a powerful chariot. Okay, so that is why these different symbols are given, showing that the victory is certain for the Pandavas. Okay, so this is 14, right? So, and one thing is, we came to know that Krishna and Arjuna's also conch shell is transcendental. Okay. Next, let's go to 15 to 18. Krishna, Arjuna, Bhima blowing their transcendental conch shell. So in 14, we saw Krishna and Arjuna. Now we'll see what their conch shells are named. Okay, 15 to 18. Panchajanyam Hrishikesho Devadattam Dhananjaya Poundram Dadmau Mahashankham Bhima Karma Vrikodaraha. So translation, Lord Krishna blew his conch shell called Panchajanya. So Krishna's transcendental conch shell is named Panchajanya. And Arjuna blew his Devadatta. So Arjuna's conch shell name is Devadatta. And Bhima, the voracious eater and performer of Herculean tasks, blew his terrific conch shell called Poundra. And why is Bhima called Vrkodara? Anybody? What does Vrkodara mean? Why is he called Vrkodara?
Mataji,
Yeah, please, Prabhuji.
Mataji, Bhim was called Vrikodar because he was a voracious eater.
Yeah, and
Uh, and Mataji, because Bhima was uh, Bhima had immense strength.
yeah, perfect. Thank you. See, Bhima, he used to eat so much, and it's not that he would just eat and sleep. And that much he ate, and that much Draupadi and everybody was sitting. Half the food she used to give to Bhima, and the remaining half was divided among the remaining Pandavas and Draupadi and Kunti and everybody. So the half they used to give to Bhima. So he was so hungry. And we know this, right? Pandava Nirjala Ekadasi, all of you must have heard, especially for the Bhima, right? So Bhima, he says that I can't do this Ekadasi at all. Every 25 Ekadasis are there in a year. So I can't fast without eating. I can't stay a second also. That's why one a sage, I don't remember that sage's name. He says, see, once a year, if you fast completely one day, if you do nirjal, that is enough for you. So that's why that Ekadasi is for Bhima. That is called Pandava Nirjala Ekadasi. So he can't stay without eating. He says that my Jataragni inside will burn me. Right? If I don't eat, it'll start burning inside. I can't stay without eating. So he eats so much. And like he eats, obviously he performs such Herculean big tasks. Okay, so Bhima is called Vrkodara. So he blew his conch shell named Poundra. So this is 15, right? So let's see. Yeah. See 50, Krishna blew his conch shell Panchajanya, Arjuna Devadatta, and Bhima is Poundra. Okay. And Krishna is called Rishikesha. Right? In Shloka 15, if you see, he's called Rishikesha. Why? Because he's the controller of all our senses. Right? Krishna is situated in our heart and he directs our senses based on living entities' desire. Right? He is the Rishikesha means what? Controller of all our senses. Right? He gives like whatever we desire for that, he gives us the direct senses based on our desires. Okay. And let's see what he says in Shloka 16. 16 to 18. Ananta Vijayam Raja Kunti Putro Yudhishthiraha Nakulaha Sahadevascha Sugosha Mani Pushpakau Kashyascha Parameshwasaha Shikandi cha Maharataha Drishtadyumno Viratascha Satikischa Parajitaha Drupado Drupadeyascha Sarvashah Prithvipate सौभद्रश्च महाबाहुः शङ्खान् दद्मुः पृथक् पृथक्. So translation, King Yudhishthira, the son of Kunti, blew his conch shell, the Ananta Vijaya. So Yudhishthira's conch shell is called Ananta Vijaya. And Nakula and Sahadeva blew their conch shell, that is Sugosha and Mani Pushpaka. That great archer, the king of Kashi, the great fighter Shikandi. Okay, anybody knows who is Shikandi? He's famous, right? Shikandi?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, who is Shikandi, Prabhuji?
Mataji, Shikhandi, he was the brother of Gandhari.
No, Gandhari's brother is I forgot his name. Chakuni.
Shakuni.
Yeah, not Shikandi.
Shikhandi.
Shikandi is actually, he was a female earlier, and then because he had some grudge against Bhishma, he does a penance and he becomes a boy, right? He becomes a boy Shikandi, and his name becomes earlier as a girl. Her name was Shikandini, and then he transforms into a boy Shikandi so that he can take revenge against Bhishma, some reason. Okay, and then in the war in Kurukshetra, Bhishma says that I don't want to fight with a lady, because actually Shikandi is a lady, and then she transforms into a boy. So Bhishma says that no, I can't fight with a lady. It's against my this thing rules that I won't fight. So keeping this as a thing, what does Arjuna do? Arjuna sits behind Shikandi. He hides behind Shikandi, and he kills Bhishma, taking advantage of the situation. Behind Shikandi he hides and he starts attacking Bhishma. That's how he attacks Bhishma, and he puts him down. Okay, so taking the shelter of Shikandi, he hides behind Shikandi. Okay, using Shikandi as an instrument. Okay, that's how he could put down Bhishmacharya. Drishtadyumna and Virata. And Virata, anybody knows? Drishtadyumna, we know he's the son of Drupada. And Virata? Virata also a very famous king. Yeah, Virata is king. See, when the Pandavas went for exile 13 years, right? In the 13th year, they had to hide 1 year, right? It was like they should not, their identity should be hidden. So that time they took shelter of the king of, they took shelter of Virata. There they were in incognito. They had to be incognito for 1 year. So there they changed their whole vesha, like their Yudhishthira, he behaves like a court jester, and Arjuna becomes Brihannala, the dancer for Uttara, right? And Nakula Sahadeva, they become the cowherd people. I mean, grazing cows and horses and everything. Now Nakula Sahadeva, and Bhima, he becomes the cook person, and Draupadi, she becomes the maid servant of the queen. So each of them in the kingdom of Virata, they take these different positions. So Virata later, at this time when all were Pandavas were in like incognito in Virata kingdom, the Kauravas attacked the Virata kingdom. That time Virata takes help of all these Pandavas and they win the battle, and then Virata comes to know that they are Pandavas, and then he nicely treats them everything. Okay, so that's why Virata also is on the side of Pandavas. Okay, the unconquerable Satyaki, Drupada, the sons of Draupadi and others, O king, such as the mighty armed son of Subhadra, all blew their respective conch shells. So one by one, all of them blew their conch shells. Okay, so this is what 18, right? 16 to 18. Okay. So these are the different names of Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhima, which you can all see in the PPT after it is being given to you. So the common names of Krishna, Arjuna, all, okay? Because all these names in Bhagavad Gita we refer. Sometimes we call Arjuna as Pritha, Partha, and Arjuna as son of Bharata, Kaunteya. So like that, different names come. So you should be familiar with the names. Like when Krishna is called Rishikesha, is the master of our senses. Madhava means the husband of goddess of fortune. Achyuta means one who does not fall down, the infallible one. Madhusudana means killer of Madhu. So you should be knowing, be familiar with these terms, okay? Govinda, one who gives pleasure to the senses. Vasudeva, son of Vasudeva. And Dhananjaya means the conqueror of wealth. Partha means the son of Pritha. Why is
Yeah.
Arjuna called Partha? Son of Pritha. Who is Pritha?
Kunti Devi,
How did
Maharani
she get that?
Kunti.
How did she get the name Pritha?
माता जी,
Yeah.
कुंती, महारानी कुंती was was the sister of King Pritha.
No, 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 no. Actually, Surasena had a daughter by name. He named her daughter as Pritha. Like Surasena's daughter's name is Pritha, and then Surasena had a good friend by name Kunti Boja, and then he gave his daughter Pritha for adoption to Kunti Boja. Right, Kunti Boja, because his name contains Kunti Boja, right? So he gave that name to Kunti Maharani. So from Pritha, her name changed to Kunti. That is how she got Kunti. So earlier, her first name, his first father, biological father, gave her the name Pritha. And then when she was adopted by Kunti Boja, he changed the name from Pritha to Kunti. Okay, so that is how she got the name Kunti.
माता जी,
Yeah.
माता जी,
Yeah.
Kunti Bhoja was the father of Kunti.
No, he adopted. Surasena and Kunti Bhoja were good friends, Prabhuji. So he had Kunti Bhoja had no children. So Surasena gave his daughter to Kunti Bhoja to adopt her. Okay. Okay, so let's go to 19. सघोषो धातराष्ट्राणां हृदयानि व्यधारयत् नभश्च पृथिवीं चैव तुमुलो अभ्यनुनादयन्. Translation: The blowing of these different conch shells became uproarious, vibrating both in the sky and on earth. It shattered the hearts of the son of Dhritarashtra. Okay. See, when they were blowing, blowing became uproarious, shattered the hearts of sons of Dhritarashtra. Now, all the on the side of Pandavas, they were all blowing their conch shells now. So, Duryodhana's team blew conch shell. See, when now they're saying, let's read first. Duryodhana's team blew the conch shell, didn't shatter Pandavas' hearts due to confidence in Lord Krishna. So, taking shelter of Lord, nothing to fear. See, what they're trying to say is when Duryodhana's stream blew the conch shell, Pandava's hearts on the other side didn't have any effect. They were least bothered. They didn't even fear or anything. Why? Because they had Krishna on their side. They had confidence in Krishna. They took complete shelter of Krishna. So if we take, it's a lesson for us. If we take shelter of Krishna, there is nothing for us to fear. So the Pandavas, they took shelter of Krishna, and even though all the Kauravas were blowing their conch shells, they were not fearful at all because they knew they had Krishna. They took shelter of Krishna. They knew Krishna would take care. So they had nothing to fear. Okay. But Kaurava's heart shattered due to fear. But when the Pandavas, they blew their conch shells, see, Kaurava's heart shattered due to fear. So this shows signs of defeat, right? Because they didn't have Krishna, right? So they were fearful when the Pandavas they blew the conch shell, they were fearful. So this clearly indicates their sign of defeat because they feared, right? It's a sign of defeat. Okay. So let's see 20. अत व्यवस्थितान् दृष्ट्वा धातराष्ट्रान् कपिध्वजः प्रवृत्ते शस्त्रसम्पाते धनुरुद्यम्य पाण्डवः ऋषिकेशं तदा वाक्यम् इदम् आह महीपते. Translation. At this time, Arjuna, the son of Pandu, seated in the chariot bearing the flag marked with Hanuman, took up his bow and prepared to shoot his arrows. O king, after looking at the sons of Dhritarashtra, drawn in military array, Arjuna then spoke to Lord Krishna these words. So one more, two more, I think, symbols of victory. At that time, he's seated on a chariot bearing the flag marked with Hanuman. Okay, on the chariot, on the top, they had a flag bearing the mark of Hanuman. Okay, so what is Hanuman? It's a sign of victory. 1 second. See, Arjuna's flag on the chariot has emblem of Hanuman, a devotee of Lord Ram, signs of victory because Hanuman cooperated Lord Rama and they both won the battle. See, Hanuman, he cooperated in the battle between Ravana and Rama, and that's why they won the battle. So, like that, now because the flag of Hanuman was there, now Krishna is present, right? Krishna is present, so obviously it is a sign of victory. Krishna or Lord Ram is the same thing, right? And Hanuman is also present, so it's a clear sign of victory that they are going to win. The Pandavas are going to win. And also Lord Krishna is personally present as Rishikesha to direct his senses. So Rishikesha means what? He's the master of all our senses. Now he is personally present and he is directing the senses of Arjuna, right? He's present there and he's directing, Krishna is, as Rishikesha, is directing the senses of Arjuna. So obviously Arjuna's victory is assured. Okay. So we'll just see the signs of victory once again for the Pandavas. Why surely the Pandavas will win? What are the signs of victory? So Krishna's first is Krishna is personally present, and then goddess of fortune is present, right? Krishna, always goddess of fortune is present with Krishna, with with her husband. She never leaves. So victory and fortune were present for the Pandavas, and the venue Kurukshetra is a holy place, so that will have the effect obviously because the Pandavas were virtuous and they were the dharmic people. So definitely that is one sign of victory. So Hanumanji, we saw the flag on Arjuna's flag bore Hanuman's this thing. So that's a sign of victory. And symbol of Vishnu, the conch shells that Krishna was blowing, right? The conch shell is one of the symbol of Vishnu. In his hand he holds the conch shell, right? So that is a symbol of victory. Okay, and transcendental conch shell. Krishna and Arjuna had transcendental conch shells, right? They blew their transcendental conch shells, right? Because of which the Kauravas were felt fearful. So that is a symbol of defeat, right? Victory for the Pandavas. And Bhishma's conch shell to pacify Duryodhana, right? Because he was fearful. To give him that confidence, Bhishma blew the conch shell. But it is indirectly showing that Krishna is there on the other side. Anyway, you have to lose the battle. You will be killed, right? Agni Deva's chariot, right? It's capable of conquering all directions and shattering of the hearts. Obviously, when we saw that the Pandavas were blowing their conch shells, it shattered the hearts of the Kauravas because they had Krishna on their side, because they took shelter of Krishna. And that's why when the Kauravas blew the conch shell, their hearts did not shatter because they were taking shelter of Krishna. So these are the 9
Yes, the glass is burning.
showing the victory for the Pandavas. Okay. So 21 to 23. So 21, 22. Arjuna uvacha senayor ubhayor madhye ratam sthapaye me achyuta yavat eta niriksheham yodukaman avasthitan kairmaya saha yodhavyam asmin ranas samudyame. Translation. Arjuna said, O infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies so that I may see those present here who desire to fight and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms. Okay, now Arjuna calls in the shloka as Achyuta, infallible one. So one who never fails in his affection for his devotees. Okay, Achyuta actually means he never falls down. He is like Arjuna is, Krishna is transcendental. Not like us, he does not fall down in this material world and take different bodies. Like he is he does not fall down. So here in this context, it means that he never fails in his affection for his devotees. Okay. So now here in shloka 21 and 22, Arjuna is asking Krishna, please draw my chariot between the two armies, right? So that he wanted to see who is present on the other side, who is so interested to fight, who wants all this bloodshed, why all this, who is so interested to fight, and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms. Okay, so Lord Krishna, out of love and causeless mercy, accepted the position of a charioteer. See, generally, you all may be thinking just to listen to the, being a charioteer means what is there? Nothing, we may feel. But taking the position of a charioteer is so low. You know, when fighting as a charioteer, if the person fighting has to tell, go to the right or go to the left, you know, how do they tell? With the leg, they kick them on the shoulder. If they have to go to the right, they kick the shoulder of the charioteer on the right, and if they have to go to the left, with the leg they have to kick them on the left side. They can't tell, they won't have the time to say it with their mouth, otherwise they'll be dead. So that fast the fighting will be happening. So imagine Krishna became a charioteer for Arjuna. So this shows how much love he has for Arjuna, that he became a charioteer, right? For so many days, like he became a charioteer for Arjuna. So he was constantly kicking Krishna on the shoulder, go right this side, go left this side. So we can just imagine how much uh, he bore for Arjuna. So why did he do all that? Out of love for Arjuna. See, out of love, Lord Krishna, out of love and causeless mercy, he accepted the position of a charioteer. And would anybody like to actually be a driver? Would anybody like like in this material world, does anybody like to be a driver, car driver, or something like that? That's such a cheap position, right? Nobody likes to take the position of a car driver. But here, Krishna, he took the position of a charioteer just out of love and causeless mercy. See, Krishna is like Arjuna's cousin, because uh, Kunti is the mother of Arjuna, and Kunti and Vasudeva are brother and sister, right? Vasudeva son is Krishna, right? So they are cousins. So out of affection, being in that family lineage, Krishna, so that's why, because they are cousins, out of love and causes mercy, he accepted that position as a charioteer, that low position he went to. He took such a low position because he had that love for Arjuna, right? And Lord Krishna takes pleasure in serving his unalloyed pure devotees. So Arjuna was such a pure devotee. I'll just give you a story very quickly. Always, Duryodhana, Yudhishthira, and all the other Pandavas were never understood why Krishna is always attached to Arjuna so much. They wonder, why do you give special care to Arjuna always? And one day, all these Pandavas, like Nakula, Sahadeva, Yudhishthira, they see Arjuna carrying a bowl of butter and entering into Arjuna's camp during the Kurukshetra war. See, after fighting, obviously they'll have many wounds on the body, right? So Krishna, he took a bowl of butter and he went into Arjuna's camp. And there he was massaging the butter on all the wounds of Arjuna. So nicely he massaged Arjuna, and then he came out. And then Krishna, after when he came out, he sees Yudhishthira and everybody. Now Yudhishthira asks, see, why are you only putting cream only to Arjuna and not to others? Then Yudhishthira, I mean, like Krishna says, see, Arjuna is such a devotee, pure, unalloyed devotee. Like even in his sleep, through his pores of the hair, he's chanting my name, Krishna. Even in his sleep, he's chanting Krishna, 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 Krishna. So Yudhishthira and all, they go inside and see Arjuna is sleeping. But they put their head near Arjuna's body, near the pores, and they could hear Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. They were surprised. So much is Arjuna devoted to Krishna. That's why Krishna took that position as a chariot out of love for Arjuna. Okay. So in any position, his supremacy is never challenged. But neither, like, because he became a charioteer, you should not undermine the position of Krishna. That's what they are saying. In any position, Krishna is Krishna, whether he's a charioteer or anything, any position he takes, whether he's a baby, we should not think that because he's become a baby, he has no all those qualities of supreme personality of Godhead. Okay, God is God. He just for Leela, he takes different forms as a baby or as a charioteer. Okay. So in any position, his supremacy is always there. That we should understand. Okay. So 23. योत्स्यमानान् अवक्षेऽहं य एतेऽत्र समागताः धार्तराष्ट्रस्य दुर्बुद्धेर्युद्धे प्रियचिकीर्षवः. Translation: Let me see those who have come here to fight, wishing to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. So now Arjuna is saying, put the chariot in between so that I can see who has come, who is so interested to fight. So we'll stop with this last shloka. Actually, I thought I'd complete 24 to 27, but it's being 8 o'clock, so I'll just try to stop here. Okay, I'll just finish this shloka, right? So Arjuna, being a pure devotee, has no desire to fight. So he wanted to see how much the other side, his relatives and friends, were bent upon demanding an unwanted war. He wanted to see the supporters who wanted to please evil-minded Duryodhana and estimate their strength not for peace proposal. Okay? Okay. So here, Arjuna, like the main reason why he had actually initially he had come there to fight. He had no intention not to fight, right? But now when he's asking Krishna to bring the chariot in between, he wanted to see who is so bent. Actually, see that's why Pandavas, they were never interested in this war, but they had no option. See, they sent Krishna also for peace treaty. We don't want the war. Let's take half of the kingdom, or even if not that, give us 5 villages. But the Duryodhana didn't listen, because of which they were forced to fight. But actually, they were never interested in fighting. So that's why Arjuna, he wanted to see who are all those people on Duryodhana's side, including Duryodhana. He wanted to see who are so bent upon work, who wanted to fight. Why did they want? I mean, who wanted to fight? See, here the analogy is given: birds of the same flocks fly together. Obviously, right? All the bad people, they come together on one side. If Duryodhana is like a wicked person, obviously the persons who are supporting him also will be wicked. So that is what it means. Birds of the same feather flock together. They move in the same path. Like all must be like Duryodhana only. Okay. So here, see, Arjuna, he wanted to look at all the warriors who had sided with Duryodhana, the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra, to understand who he would be fighting against. Actually, Arjuna, he was not planning any negotiations or trying to make peace here. Okay, his goal was to simply assess the strength and the character of the enemy forces. He wanted to see like who is more powerful, who is more strength. Like he wanted to come to a strategy how I should fight. So just because he wanted to decide that, he wanted to take a closer look. Who is more powerful? Who is this? How I have to plan, do all that. So that's why he wanted to assess all that. But at the same time, he was confident of success. Why? Because Krishna was there. Krishna was there as his charioteer and he was there to guide him. Okay, so this was just a moment. He was just trying to be, he just wanted to observe the opposite army and he mentally wanted to prepare himself before the battle began. Okay, he wanted to assess like who is there. Okay, this person is here. Okay, I have this powerful person is here. I have to plan my strategy like this. Oh, this person is here. This. So he wanted to mentally be prepared how he has to fight. So that's why he wanted to assess, see the this thing, so that when he is there, he could see when he saw everybody. He wanted to assess. That's all. That's the reason he wanted to take Krishna to take the chariot in between. Okay. So we'll stop here for today. Actually, if we can complete 24 to 27, now we can just start the next section, but fine, it's okay. We'll do 24 tomorrow, okay? No problem.
Mataji,
Yes, Prabhuji?